The void of space erupted in silent violence, a massacre painted across the infinite canvas of stars. Captain Jack Morgan gripped the command console of the U.S. Defiance, his weathered hands trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. The holographic displays flickered with the dying signatures of human colonies, vibrant worlds reduced to cosmic ash in mere moments. Proxima Centauri colony had been the first to fall. Satellite feeds showed massive energy weapons slicing through orbital defenses like they were tissue paper. Entire metropolitan centers vanished in cascading nuclear-like explosions, their structures vaporizing faster than human minds could comprehend. Millions died in the initial strike, their final moments captured in fragmented transmission bursts that scattered across communication networks. Tactical analysis, Morgan barked, his voice a controlled storm of professional fury. Lieutenant Rachel Gonzalez worked her console, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Data streams cascaded around her, each fragment a testament to the devastation. "Sir, we're looking at a multi-vector attack. The Zorn Collective has deployed weapons beyond our current technological understanding. Quantum disruptors, gravimetric compression fields, and something our systems can't even categorize." Morgan's steel-gray eyes scanned the rapidly updating threat map. What had begun as routine patrol had transformed into humanity's worst nightmare. The Zorn hadn't just attacked, they had delivered a message of total extermination. On secondary screens, emergency broadcasts from surviving colonies painted a horrific picture. Families huddled in underground shelters, military personnel desperately trying to coordinate evacuation efforts, and communication networks breaking down under the overwhelming assault. The Zorn strategy was surgical: destroy communication, eliminate leadership, crush hope. "They're not just attacking," Morgan muttered, more to himself than to his bridge crew. "They're attempting complete cultural erasure." A new transmission cut through the chaos. The face of Arch Coordinator Zoltuk appeared, a nightmarish amalgamation of cybernetic enhancement and biological horror. Its multiple eyes, each a different color and seemingly independent, swept across the communication spectrum. When it spoke, the words were translated through quantum communication arrays, each syllable dripping with contempt. "Humanity represents a genetic anomaly," Zoltuk proclaimed. "Your species' unpredictability makes you a threat to galactic stability. The Zorn Collective has reviewed your potential, and the calculation is simple: total elimination is the only logical solution." Lieutenant Gonzalez's hands flew across her console. "Sir, I'm detecting additional fleet movements. They're not just targeting colonies, they're systematically destroying our deep space communication relays. We'll be blind within the next 36 hours. Morgan knew what that meant. Without communication networks, human colonies would be isolated, unable to coordinate or support each other. It was a strategy of complete information warfare, designed to prevent any unified resistance. The U.S. Defiance shuddered. Proximity alerts screamed across the bridge as 3 massive Zorn warships materialized from quantum jump points. Their designs defied conventional understanding. Organic metal that seemed to breathe, weapon systems that morphed and reconfigured with liquid-like precision. "Evasive maneuvers," Morgan commanded. "Prepare emergency quantum jump sequence." But they both knew escape was unlikely. The Zorn ships moved with a predatory grace, their weapon systems charging with an energy that made space itself seem to warp and twist. In that moment, Captain Jack Morgan understood the true nature of their situation. This was not just an invasion. This was a calculated attempt to erase humanity from existence. Every colony, every ship, every human life was now under threat of complete extinction. As the first energy weapon began to charge, casting an impossible green-purple light across the Defiance's hull, Morgan made a decision. They would not go quietly. They would not become another statistic in the Zorn Collective's cold calculation of galactic stability. "All hands," he transmitted on an encrypted channel, knowing it might be their last communication. "Prepare for combat. Humanity does not surrender." The first wave of destruction was about to begin. 72 hours after the initial Zorn attack, The world looked nothing like it had before. Emma Rodriguez stood in the Global Defense Command Center, watching as humanity underwent a metamorphosis that would define the species' survival. The center was a symphony of controlled chaos. Massive screens displayed real-time data from every corner of human-controlled space. Colonies, research facilities, manufacturing centers, and military installations. What had once been competing nations and corporate entities now moved with a synchronicity that defied previous understanding. Production metrics, Emma called out, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. A holographic display materialized, showing global manufacturing capabilities. The numbers were beyond anything in human history. Aerospace companies that had previously competed were now sharing blueprints in real time. Semiconductor manufacturers had retooled entire production lines within hours. What would have taken years now happened in days. Aerospace integration at 92%, reported Michael Chen, a logistics coordinator from the United Pacific Technology Consortium. We're converting commercial satellite factories, orbital construction platforms, and even cruise ship yards into military production centers. Emma watched as the display showed a live map of Earth. Every major city was transforming. Silicon Valley's tech campuses had become distributed research hubs. Detroit's automotive plants were now churning out modular spacecraft components. Shanghai's massive electronics districts worked in perfect harmony, developing advanced sensor and communication technologies. The most remarkable transformation wasn't technological, it was human. Retired military personnel returned to service without hesitation. Researchers who had spent careers in theoretical physics now applied their knowledge to weapons development. University students abandoned traditional curricula to support the war effort. It wasn't conscription. It was a global voluntary mobilization driven by a singular purpose. In a secure facility beneath the Mojave Desert, Dr. Marcus Hayworth reviewed the latest neural network simulations. The Global Human Intelligence Network was unlike anything ever conceived. By integrating advanced artificial intelligence with human intuition, they were creating a distributed cognitive system that could process and adapt faster than any known military intelligence. We're not just building a defense, Hayworth muttered to himself. We're evolving a new form of collective consciousness. The global economic system had been completely redesigned in hours. Traditional currency became meaningless. Resources were now allocated based on strategic necessity, with a level of efficiency that would have been impossible just days before. Every human resource, intellectual, industrial, logistical, was being channeled into a singular mission of survival and resistance. Military communications revealed a similar transformation. The United Global Defense Force was no longer a theoretical concept, but a rapidly materializing reality. Soldiers from different nations who had once been potential enemies now trained together, shared resources, and developed integrated combat strategies. Zorn doesn't understand us, Emma said to Michael, studying the rapidly changing strategic maps. They see us as a collection of individual entities. They don't realize we can become something more. A new transmission cut through the command center. Captain Jack Morgan, survivor of the initial Zorn assault, appeared on the main screen. His transmission was raw, unfiltered, a testament to the human spirit of resistance. They thought they could break us. Morgan's voice resonated through the facility. They believed our diversity was a weakness. They're about to learn it's our greatest strength. The global neural network began to show its true potential. Predictive models developed in seconds what would have taken months. Technological innovations emerged from unexpected collaborations. A quantum physicist in Berlin would solve a crucial energy transfer problem that a materials engineer in Sao Paulo had been struggling with, all within minutes of each other. Emma watched the holographic displays, seeing humanity transform from a collection of nations and cultures into a unified, adaptive organism. The Zorn had made a fundamental miscalculation. They saw humanity as a static, predictable species. What they were about to encounter was a civilization capable of reinventing itself at a moment's notice. Prepare full-scale mobilization, Emma commanded. We're no longer defending. We're going to show the galaxy what humanity truly is. The crucible was heating up, and humanity was ready to be forged into something unprecedented. The Mojave Desert Research Facility looked like nothing special from the outside. A collection of unassuming buildings nestled among rocky terrain. But beneath the surface, Dr. Marcus Hayworth was about to change the course of human history. 3 weeks into the Zorn invasion, traditional physics had become nothing more than a starting point. The research team worked in a state of perpetual motion, fueled by synthesized caffeine compounds and an almost religious determination. Holographic displays surrounded them, each screen a window into a reality that defied conventional understanding. Quantum entanglement isn't just a communication method, Hayworth explained to his lead engineer, Rebecca Chen. It's a fundamental restructuring of spatial perception. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected intersection of disciplines. A nuclear physicist's abandoned theory, a deep space communication engineer's failed experiment, and a materials scientist's radical hypothesis had combined into something extraordinary. What emerged was more than a technological innovation. It was a fundamental reimagining of how technology could interact with the universe. The first Phoenix-class prototype sat in the main testing chamber, a vessel that looked more like a living organism than a traditional spacecraft. Its exterior seemed to shimmer, molecular structures constantly realigning themselves. Traditional metals and composites had been replaced by a quantum-adaptive material that could literally reshape itself in response to environmental challenges. Energy readings are off the charts, Rebecca muttered, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. We're looking at a completely new form of matter-energy interaction. The ship's core was unlike anything previously conceived. Instead of traditional power systems, it utilized a quantum-entangled energy matrix that could draw power directly from quantum fluctuations in spacetime. Essentially, the ship could generate unlimited energy by tapping into the fundamental fabric of the universe itself. But the most remarkable feature was its intelligence system. This wasn't simply an AI. It was a distributed cognitive network that could learn, adapt, and evolve in real time. Each Phoenix-class ship would be more than a weapon. It would be a living, thinking entity capable of making split-second decisions that no biological intelligence could comprehend. Dr. Hayworth ran another simulation. The results were staggering. In theoretical combat scenarios, a single Phoenix-class ship could outmaneuver and outperform entire squadrons of traditional spacecraft. Its ability to predict and counter enemy movements happened at speeds that made traditional tactical planning look like ancient Morse code. We're not just building a ship, Hayworth said, more to himself than to anyone else. We're creating a new form of intelligence. The testing chamber hummed with potential energy. Rebecca initiated the first full system test, her hand steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. The Phoenix prototype began to vibrate, its molecular structure becoming momentarily translucent. And then it happened. The ship disappeared. Not in a traditional sense of faster-than-light travel. It simply ceased to exist in their current spatial understanding, only to rematerialize milliseconds later in a completely different location. The quantum jump was so precise that it made previous faster-than-light technologies look like children's toys. Successful quantum translation, Rebecca reported, her voice barely containing her excitement. Complete spatial reconfiguration achieved with zero energy loss. Dr. Hayworth knew they had done more than create a new spacecraft. They had fundamentally challenged every known principle of physics, space travel, and artificial intelligence. The Zorn believed they understood humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The research team worked in a state of controlled excitement. They understood that what they had created was more than a technological marvel. It was humanity's ultimate response to an existential threat. A living, thinking weapon that embodied the species' capacity for innovation, adaptation, and sheer unexpected brilliance. Prepare full production specifications, Hayworth commanded. We're going to build 700,000 of these, and we're going to show the Zorn what happens when you push humanity into a corner. The quantum revolution had begun. The stealth ship Ghost Whisper moved through space like a phantom, its quantum camouflage technology rendering it invisible to even the most advanced Zorn detection systems. Lieutenant Kyle Anderson studied the holographic mission map, every muscle coiled with tension. This wasn't just a reconnaissance mission. It was humanity's most critical infiltration operation since the invasion began. Their target, the Zorn Central Communication Hub, a massive orbital complex located in the Nexus Sigma system. Intelligence suggested it was the primary nerve center of the Zorn Collective's strategic communication network. Destroy or compromise this hub, and they could throw the entire invasion force into chaos. Approach vector confirmed, whispered Sarah Martinez, the mission's quantum navigation specialist. Her fingers moved across holographic interfaces with surgical precision. We're riding quantum shadow frequencies. They won't even know we're here. The team was a carefully selected group of humanity's finest. Each member had been chosen not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to think beyond conventional tactical doctrine. Kyle Anderson was the perfect embodiment of this new breed of human operative, a strategist who understood that warfare was now as much about information and psychology as it was about direct combat. As they approached the communication hub, the sheer scale of the Zorn structure became apparent. It was a massive construct that seemed to defy physical laws, part mechanical, part biological, with communication tendrils that stretched across multiple quantum frequencies. Conventional human technology would have been detected instantly, but they were far from conventional. Quantum infiltration sequence initiating, Martins reported. The Ghost Whisper began to phase, not through traditional means of stealth, but by literally manipulating the quantum state of its molecular structure. They were becoming less of a physical object and more of a quantum probability, sliding between the cracks of reality itself. Kyle reviewed the mission parameters one last time. Their objectives were clear: compromise the communication network, extract critical strategic data, and if possible, introduce a cascading failure into the Zorn's command structure. As they penetrated the outer quantum barriers of the communication hub, something unexpected happened. The structure seemed to breathe. Biological and mechanical systems intertwined in ways that defied human understanding. It was alive, but not in any way they had previously conceived of life. Encountering unexpected quantum resonance, Martins muttered. Their communication network is more integrated than our initial models suggested. Lieutenant Michael Rodriguez, the team's cyber warfare specialist, was already working. His neural interface allowed him to interact with the Zorn systems on a level that went beyond traditional hacking. He was literally speaking the language of quantum information, introducing subtle destabilizing algorithms that would spread like a virus through the entire network. What followed was less a traditional infiltration and more a complex dance of information warfare. The human team didn't just breach the Zorn communication hub. They began to rewrite its fundamental operational parameters. False communication cascades were introduced. Strategic coordinates were subtly altered. Command hierarchies were disrupted by quantum-level information manipulation. The Zorn wouldn't just lose communication. They would begin to lose trust in their own systems. We're not just gathering intelligence, Kyle explained to his team. We're creating strategic uncertainty. The mission lasted less than 17 minutes, but in that short window, the human team had done more damage to the Zorn invasion effort than entire fleets could have accomplished through traditional warfare. As they began their extraction, Kyle noticed something profound. The Zorn communication hub was beginning to show signs of systemic confusion. Command signals were becoming garbled. Strategic coordination was breaking down. Mission accomplished, Martins said, a hint of a smile crossing her face. They had struck not with weapons, but with something far more powerful, pure human ingenuity. The Ghost Whisper phased back into standard space, carrying with it the first true victory in humanity's war against the Zorn Collective. They hadn't just gathered intelligence. They had begun to unravel the very fabric of the alien invasion. The solar system itself seemed to hold its breath. Admiral Rebecca Winters stood on the bridge of the flagship Phoenix Prime, her steel-gray eyes fixed on the holographic displays that surrounded her. 700,000 ships waited in precise, quantum-synchronized formation, a number so vast it defied traditional military comprehension. This was more than a fleet. It was humanity's ultimate response. Each Phoenix-class vessel represented the pinnacle of human technological achievement. They weren't just ships. They were living, thinking entities that existed simultaneously across multiple quantum states. Their molecular structures could realign in milliseconds, absorbing and redirecting energy in ways that violated every known principle of physics. Final system synchronization, reported Commander David Chen, his fingers dancing across quantum interface modules. Fleet neural network at 100% operational capacity. The ships looked nothing like traditional spacecraft. Their exteriors shifted and shimmered, molecular structures in constant flux. Organic and mechanical systems had been so thoroughly integrated that the line between technology and living organism had completely disappeared. Each vessel was both a weapon and a sentient being, capable of making tactical decisions faster than any biological intelligence could comprehend. Admiral Winters understood the true nature of what they had created. This wasn't just a military force. It was a collective consciousness, a distributed intelligence that could think, adapt, and respond as a single unified entity. "Zorn tracking systems?" she asked. Chen's response was immediate, completely nullified. "We're invisible until the moment of engagement." The quantum communication network that linked the ships was beyond anything the Zorn could possibly understand. Information traveled not through traditional means, but through quantum entanglement, instantaneous communication that transcended space and time. Each ship could share tactical information, adjust strategies, and coordinate movements with a precision that made traditional military communication look like primitive smoke signals. Beneath the solar system's outer planetary regions, the fleet waited. Massive manufacturing complexes continued to produce additional ships, their production rates defying previous understanding of industrial capabilities. What would have taken decades now happened in weeks. "Initiate final pre-deployment sequence," Winters commanded. The ships began to resonate, not with sound, but with pure quantum potential. They weren't just preparing for war. They were becoming something more than any single vessel had ever been before. Holographic displays showed the strategic overview. Intelligence gathered from the previous infiltration mission had provided crucial insights into Zorn deployment strategies. But the Zorn had no concept of what was about to be unleashed. "Remember," Winters spoke, her voice transmitted directly through the quantum neural network to every single ship and crew member. "We are not just defending. We are fundamentally changing the nature of galactic conflict." The first wave of ships began to move. They didn't travel in traditional faster-than-light methods. Instead, they quantum translated, essentially existing simultaneously in multiple locations, their molecular structures phasing through the fabric of space-time itself. Traditional navigation became meaningless. These ships could appear anywhere, at any time, with zero warning. Each vessel carried not just conventional weapons, but quantum disruption fields that could literally unmake the molecular structure of enemy ships. Energy weapons that could redirect and absorb incoming attacks. Adaptive shield systems that learned and evolved with each millisecond of combat. Deployment in 3, Chen counted down. 2, 1. The solar system erupted. 700,000 ships burst forth, a wave of technological potential that defied every known principle of space warfare. They moved not as individual vessels, but as a single, living organism, humanity's ultimate expression of technological and strategic innovation. The Zorn Collective was about to learn a fundamental truth. When humanity is pushed into a corner, it doesn't just fight back. It reinvents the very nature of conflict itself. The Armada had awakened. The Battle of Centauri Divide would be remembered as the moment humanity redefined galactic warfare. Admiral Rebecca Winters watched through quantum-enhanced perception as the Phoenix fleet engaged the Zorn Collective. It wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. It was a quantum dance of incomprehensible complexity, where each ship moved with an intelligence that transcended biological limitations. The Zorn fleet appeared impossibly massive. Thousands of ships with organic mechanical structures that had conquered hundreds of civilizations. Their vessels looked like living nightmares, with biomechanical tendrils that could reconfigure weapon systems in milliseconds. Conventional military doctrine would have predicted total human annihilation. But this was anything but a conventional battle. The first wave of human ships didn't approach. They quantum translated, existing simultaneously in multiple tactical positions. Where the Zorn expected a linear assault, human vessels appeared from impossible angles, their molecular structures phasing through space-time itself. Quantum disruption protocols engage, reported Commander David Chen, his voice calm despite the cosmic scale of destruction unfolding around them. Each Phoenix-class ship was more than a weapon. It was a living, thinking entity capable of making tactical decisions faster than entire Zorn command structures. They didn't just fight. They predicted, adapted, and manipulated the very fabric of the battlefield. Zorn energy weapons would charge, only to find their targets had already quantum shifted. Missile barrages would launch, only to have human ships redirect the incoming ordnance back to their sources. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship connected through a neural network that processed information at speeds beyond comprehension. Targeting systems are reading total chaos, Chen reported. The Zorn command structure is collapsing. And indeed, the Zorn were experiencing something unprecedented. Their hierarchical military system, which had conquered countless civilizations, began to break down. The human fleet wasn't just fighting. It was psychological warfare made manifest. Each tactical shift, each impossible maneuver was a direct assault on the Zorn's fundamental understanding of conflict. Ships would quantum translate inside Zorn vessel formations, causing molecular disruptions that tore apart entire squadrons from within. Energy weapons that should have been impossible began to manifest, quantum-entangled projectiles that could simultaneously exist in multiple locations, striking targets before they could even detect an incoming attack. Admiral Winters observed the battle's macro-level dynamics. This wasn't about destroying ships. It was about demonstrating a fundamental superiority of thought, of adaptation, of pure potential. "We're rewriting the rules of engagement," she murmured. The most terrifying aspect for the Zorn was the human fleet's collective intelligence. Each ship was both an individual and part of a greater whole. They learned in real time, adapted instantaneously, and communicated through quantum channels that made traditional communication look like primitive smoke signals. Entire Zorn battle groups would find their strategic networks compromised. Communication channels would suddenly redirect, weapon systems would turn against their own formations, and defensive protocols would catastrophically fail. Quantum infiltration at 87% effectiveness, Chen reported. "We're not just destroying their ships. We're unraveling their entire operational framework." Massive Zorn battleships, constructs that had been the terror of hundreds of civilizations, began to break apart. Not from traditional weapon damage, but from internal quantum disruptions that literally unmade their molecular structures. Ships would suddenly find their energy cores redirected, their structural integrity compromised from within. The human fleet moved with a grace that was almost beautiful. Each quantum translation was a note in a complex symphony of destruction. Where the Zorn saw chaos, the human ships saw an intricate dance of potential outcomes, always 3 steps ahead. They thought we were just another civilization to be conquered. Admiral Winters said, a hint of grim satisfaction in her voice. They never understood what humanity truly represents. As the battle reached its crescendo, something extraordinary happened. The human fleet didn't just defeat the Zorn. They demonstrated a level of technological and strategic innovation that would reshape galactic understanding forever. The symphony of destruction reached its final movement, and humanity played the ultimate composition. The broadcast began simultaneously across every communication frequency in Zorn-controlled space. Admiral Rebecca Winters stood before a holographic transmission array, her presence both commanding and unexpectedly compassionate. Behind her, the massive Phoenix fleet created a backdrop of technological marvel, a living testament to human potential. "People of the Zorn Collective," she began, her voice translated through quantum communication networks that penetrated every level of their society. "We are not here to destroy you. We are here to offer you a choice." The message was more than a simple communication. It was a carefully orchestrated psychological operation that would fundamentally challenge the entire Zorn social structure. Years of research into xenopsychology, linguistic manipulation, and collective behavior had been distilled into this singular moment. Commander David Chen monitored the transmission's impact. Quantum analysis showed the message penetrating not just communication networks, but the very social fabric of the Zorn Collective. Each word was precisely calibrated, a linguistic weapon more powerful than any physical armament. "The Zorn leadership has presented you with a narrative of galactic stability," Winters continued. "But stability built on oppression is nothing more than systematic extinction. We offer something different. We offer potential." Across thousands of subjected species within the Zorn Collective, something extraordinary began to happen. The broadcast wasn't just heard, it was experienced. Quantum communication technologies allowed the message to bypass traditional linguistic barriers, transmitting emotional and conceptual understanding directly. Linguistic specialists had spent months preparing this moment. The transmission wasn't just a message, it was a complex psychological algorithm designed to exploit the fundamental social fractures within the Zorn Collective. Every subjected species received a tailored message. For the silicon-based life forms, it highlighted technological potential. For biological collectives, it emphasized individual agency. For energy-based consciousnesses, it presented a vision of collaborative evolution. The Zorn leadership, Arch Coordinator Xaltuk, watched in growing horror. Their entire societal structure was based on a strict hierarchical model of control. Subjected species were not partners. They were resources, tools to be used and discarded. The human approach was fundamentally alien to their understanding. "We do not seek to replace your cultures," Winters explained. "We seek to create a collaborative framework where each species can reach its full potential. The technologies we've developed are not weapons, they're keys to collective advancement." Quantum communication networks began to show unprecedented activity. Subjected species started communicating across previously forbidden channels. The strict communication protocols that had maintained Zorn control for centuries began to break down. Chen's analysis showed the psychological impact in real time. "We're seeing complete social network destabilization," he reported. "Communication patterns are shifting from hierarchical to distributed models. The human fleet maintained a strategic presence, close enough to demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, but far enough to avoid appearing as a direct threat. Each ship's quantum field subtly transmitted messages of potential and collaboration. Xaltuk's communication attempts were systematically neutralized, not through force, but through a complex web of quantum communication redirections that made their messages increasingly fragmented and irrelevant. "You have a choice," Winters' message continued. "Join us in building something unprecedented, or remain trapped in a system that sees you as nothing more than resources to be consumed." The brilliance of the human approach was its fundamental understanding of collective psychology. They weren't just offering an alternative, they were providing a complete cognitive framework that challenged every existing power structure. Quantum analysis showed the transmission's impact spreading like a complex neural network. Communication patterns shifted. Social structures began to reconfigure. The very concept of the Zorn Collective started to fragment. Within hours, the first subjected species began to communicate directly with human diplomatic networks, not as conquered populations, but as potential partners. The psychological warfare was complete. Humanity had done what no military force had ever accomplished. They had defeated an empire not through destruction, but through the most powerful weapon in existence, a compelling alternative vision. The crucible was heating up, and humanity was reshaping galactic civilization, one quantum transmission at a time. 5 years after the Battle of Centauri Divide, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Admiral Rebecca Winters stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Cooperative Central Station, watching as representatives from hundreds of different species worked together in ways that would have been unimaginable just half a decade earlier. The station itself was a marvel of collaborative engineering, a testament to what could be achieved when diverse civilizations truly worked together. The Galactic Cooperative Charter had become more than a political document. It was a living framework of mutual growth, technological exchange, and collective potential. Where the Zorn Collective had seen hierarchy and control, humanity had introduced a radical new concept of interstellar collaboration. Progress Report. Winters called out to Dr. Marcus Hayworth, who now served as the primary scientific coordinator for the cooperative. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing unprecedented advancements. Technological exchanges had accelerated scientific understanding by centuries in mere years. A silicon-based civilization from the Orion Arm had developed quantum communication technologies that complemented human innovations. An energy-based collective from the Carina Nebula had shared breakthrough approaches to sustainable power generation that transformed entire planetary economies. We're seeing exponential growth across multiple scientific domains, Hayworth reported, his eyes sparkling with the same innovative spirit that had driven the initial human resistance. The collective research output is unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The transformation wasn't just technological. It was fundamentally social and philosophical. The subjected species of the former Zorn Collective were no longer resources to be exploited. They were active participants in a new form of galactic civilization. Educational and cultural exchange programs had become the most powerful diplomatic tools. Young beings from hundreds of different species studied together, shared experiences, and developed understanding in ways that traditional diplomatic approaches could never achieve. Commander David Chen oversaw the diplomatic integration efforts. His team had developed communication protocols that could bridge the most complex linguistic and cultural barriers. What had begun as a survival strategy during the war had evolved into a sophisticated approach to interspecies collaboration. It's not about homogenization, Chen often explained to new diplomatic recruits. It's about creating a framework where each species can contribute its unique perspective while working towards collective advancement. The 700,000 Phoenix-class ships that had been humanity's ultimate weapon now served a different purpose. They had become mobile research stations, diplomatic platforms, and exploration vessels. Each ship was a living testament to the potential of collaborative technology. Winters reflected on the journey. The initial invasion had been an attempt to exterminate humanity. Instead, it had given birth to an entirely new model of galactic civilization. Arch Coordinator Xaltuk, the former leader of the Zorn Collective, now served as a primary advisor to the Galactic Cooperative. Their transformation was perhaps the most profound example of the new approach. Once a symbol of oppression, they had become a voice for collaborative evolution. "We miscalculated," Xaltuk had admitted during the first Cooperative Council meeting. Humanity represented a potential we could not comprehend. Scientific breakthroughs emerged at an unprecedented rate. The joint research team had developed faster-than-light travel technologies that made previous methods look primitive. Medical exchanges had created treatments that could save billions of lives across multiple species. The economic model had been completely reimagined. Resources were no longer ported or controlled. They were shared, distributed, and used for collective advancement. Each species contributed its unique strengths, creating a galactic ecosystem of mutual growth. This is more than a political alliance, Winters told a group of young diplomats and scientists. This is a fundamental reimagining of what collective potential can mean. As the sun set on the cooperative central station, casting a warm light across the diverse gathering of species, it became clear. The Zorn invasion hadn't been humanity's destruction. It had been humanity's opportunity to reshape galactic civilization. The Renaissance had begun.